Welcome to Friday's Look North. Tonight, guilty of blackmail. The G4S worker who threatened to blow up the company's security vans unless he was paid £1 million. An inquest hears how a woman died after fire swept through her flat in a Teesside tower block. Another twist in the long-running dispute between teaching assistants and Durham County Council. And he did it 73 years ago. Now he's done it again. A war veteran's parachute jump in memory of his fallen comrades.
It was really something to remember, you know. It was all right during the war. You had a job to do. But doing it now, to remember all the boys that are still here.
Absolutely fantastic. In sport, Rafa's back as Newcastle look for a third win in a row, and excitement's building at Chesterley Street ahead of the only T20 international between England and the West Indies this summer. But there's no Ben Stokes.
He threatened to blow up security vans and workers' cars unless he was paid £1 million. 19-year-old Daniel Garland, who worked for security firm G4S, sent an anonymous letter to the company's Teesside depot in January. It said mini bombs had been planted on its vehicles and they would be detonated if the money wasn't paid. This afternoon, Garland was found guilty of blackmailing the firm and was told he'd face a significant prison sentence. Stuart Wincup reports.
Daniel Garland's threats were described as terrifying, wicked and sinister, and they prompted a major emergency operation. Half of Cleveland Police's entire staff that were on duty were involved in the investigation, and all of G4S's vehicles had to be brought back to the depot in Thornaby to be checked by specialist staff.
We had to take this really seriously. The threat involved a threat to cause multiple explosions, and naturally that resulted in a massive police response. We had more than 100 officers involved in trying to establish who had sent the letter, and also to make sure that we addressed the public safety issues by searching all of the vehicles.
In the letter, Garland said he was going to fit mini bombs to a number of G4S vans and its employees' cars and detonate them by remote control. He also threatened to storm the company's depot in Thornaby and eliminate anyone who got in his way if it didn't pay him £1 million. But Garland said he never really intended to harm anyone and never really wanted the £1 million. The letter, he said, was a ploy to get back at two of his colleagues who had been bullying him. He said he wanted to get them into trouble and claimed in the letter that they'd been passing on inside information for a successful raid on a security van. Detectives quickly suspected the letter had been typed by an employee because of the detail in it. Garland was arrested, and during a search of his home, a spare copy of the letter was found hidden behind a poster. This afternoon, after being found guilty of blackmail, the 19-year-old was told a significant custodial sentence was inevitable. He'll find out what that sentence will be on September the 29th. Stuart Wincup, BBC Look North, Middlesbrough.
She died in a fire so fierce the emergency services couldn't tell if she was a man or a woman. Teresa Bolam was overcome as flames swept through her flat on the top floor of a Teesside tower block. Today, an inquest heard the fire brigade was delayed from reaching her by a decision not to call them as soon as a fire alarm sounded. Recording a verdict of accidental death, the coroner said it was impossible to know if she could have been saved. And as Jerry Jackson reports, it's also emerged the victim had just moved along the corridor to a smaller flat to avoid the so-called bedroom tax.
Teresa Bolam was 58 and lived alone in her 11th floor flat in Thornaby. As flames took hold early on April the 19th, fellow residents of Anson House were evacuated. She was dead or dying inside, to be identified only by her fingerprints. This and many other properties on Teesside are managed by the 13 Group. At today's inquest, one of the group's concierges, Peter McLaren, explained how, being alerted that Teresa's fire alarm was sounding and getting no response from her phone, he did not call 999 but drove the short journey to the building instead.
He said across the properties managed by the group, there had been so many false alarms generated by tenants cooking or even their showers triggering their smoke alarms, that there had been what he called a certain amount of peer pressure to investigate further before calling the fire brigade.
13 Group spokeswoman Carolyn Halpin said this might have been prompted by frustration among fire crews repeatedly turning out to false alarms.
The upshot was that from the moment the first fire alarm was triggered, it was almost 3/4 of an hour before firefighters got into Teresa's flat.
Teresa Bolam died from smoke inhalation. Today, the coroner said it was impossible to know whether her life could have been saved. In another revelation, firefighters had found Teresa's body surrounded by tea light style candles. It's believed she'd been using them to cut down on electricity. She'd also recently moved from a 2-bedroom flat on the same floor to a 1-bed flat to escape a reduction in housing benefit, the so-called bedroom tax. The number of belongings crammed into a smaller space may have helped the fire take hold, the inquest was told. A spokeswoman for the 13 Group told today's hearing that the safety of its tenants was of the utmost importance. It also said it had undergone a full review of its procedures as well as additional training. Jerry Jackson, BBC Look North, Middlesbrough.
It's a dispute that's dragged on for 2 years with protest marches, rallies and strikes. Teaching assistants have been at loggerheads with Durham Council over plans to cut their pay. Well, union leaders said some staff faced losing up to 23% from their salaries. Revised plans from the council were rejected by Unison in July, but this afternoon the dispute took another twist. Our news correspondent Mark Denton has been following developments. So Mark, just remind us of the background to all this.
Yeah, you know, Jeff, we're into the 3rd academic year now of all this. It goes back to 2015 when the council proposed new contracts for its couple of thousand teaching assistants in the county. It said it had to do that because of the risk of equal pay claims, costly equal pay claims from other workers. But the union said some of their members could end up 22% worse off through that. We had 4 days of strikes before Christmas. We had a new proposal, a new deal put forward by the council in July. That was rejected by Unison, the biggest union for the TAs in the ballot. And here we are now.
And now another twist today.
Another twist today. The council today has made a revised and they say final offer. It would introduce a new grading system, a 24-month compensation period, plus what they call a teaching assistant career progression board. In the detail, 1,700 TAs would actually gain a bit more money, the council says, but 472 would lose out. And it is fair to say there is scepticism from the unions. Megan Charlton is from the Teaching Assistants Committee.
The crucial test will be how many people are still facing a pay loss and who they are, what's going to be done about achieving them staying on the same pay at the end of those 2 years, and what's going to be done to address the grading structure, expecting people to take on a significant extra responsibility just to avoid a pay cut.
So clearly questions still to be answered, but what happens now?
Well, no one from the council will be interviewed before a meeting on Wednesday, which will decide whether to go ahead with this. But Councillor Jane Brown, who's on Durham's cabinet, said this is a proposal, she says, which gives greater understanding of some of the issues raised during the negotiations. The council plans to get the new system in place by New Year's Day of next year. The unions will ballot on it. That is the plan. But as we've seen time and time again during this dispute, Jeff, plans have a way of changing.
Indeed. Mark, thanks very much for that. Teesside University is to invest £300 million to transform its campus over the next 10 years. New buildings will spring up in Middlesbrough and Darlington, including student accommodation and a new home for its business school. The news has been welcomed by firms on Teesside who already benefit from the spending power of the university's 20,000 students. Our business correspondent Ian Reeve reports.
A new term for Teesside University students. There are some 20,000 of them, and their place of study has big plans. Its buildings already dominate Middlesbrough's townscape, but more will come. A staggering £300 million will be spent over the next 10 years. New buildings will spring up, including accommodation and a new business school.
After 10 years, you'll see a campus at Teesside University that's a 21st century learning environment for our students and for our partners and for our businesses. Our intention is to build on the £270 million of investment we've already put into the campus, and that further £300 million will have a campus that meets all the needs of our students, our businesses and our partners. A campus fit for the 21st century and going forward in the future.
And the Darlington campus will get £22 million spent on a centre for the study of subsea engineering and biotechnology. Unsurprisingly, the plan has gone down rather well. Jack's Middlesbrough pub is opposite the university campus, sees about 35% of its turnover attributable to student spending.
The university has a huge impact on the business. Obviously, with Southfield Road recently being pedestrianised, it's helped us massively. It's changed all of this area sort of into the centre, more of a campus heart, which the university was lacking before. Obviously, the location of the Dickens is it's perfect, right in the centre of the heart. The students help us out massively.
Jack's hope then, and the university's, is that spending £300 million on the campus from its own resources will bring in yet more students. All spending, all building the wealth of the town. Ian Reeve, BBC Look North, Middlesbrough.
The Liberal Democrat leader, Sir Vince Cable, has predicted his party will bounce back in the northeastern Cumbria after a disappointing series of elections. The party lost the parliamentary seats of Berwick and Redcar in 2015 and saw its regional vote share fall further in this June's general election. But speaking as the Lib Dems gather for their annual conference this weekend, the newly elected leader told our political correspondent Luke Walton he's determined to fight back.
It certainly wasn't a good result, absolutely, and we've had two disappointing elections. But my job is to start the process of really seriously turning this around. I'm confident we will. I was up in the northeast speaking to our members in Newcastle and surrounding areas, and there was a lot of enthusiasm. The membership's greatly increased. We still have really excellent councillors in places like Newcastle and Gateshead and Durham. We've done very well. We have had a very big setback, but I think the big potential is this. Look, British politics is getting very polarised. Tories under the control of these hard Brexit people, Labour Party under the hard left. Big area in the middle, sensible middle ground, people looking for common sense solutions.
One of the things you're doing to recover as a party is this plan for a second referendum on the Brexit deal. We are a region where most areas actually voted to leave. Isn't that going to actually alienate voters?
Well, we're not asking for a rerunning of the last referendum. I
think that's how a lot of people see it.
That is how a lot of people saw it, and it was therefore negative in its impact. That's a lesson we've drawn from what happened in the general election. What we're talking about is having a first referendum on the facts. Once we know what the government's negotiated or not negotiated, we've got a much clearer picture about what Brexit means.
But you still want a second referendum?
We want a first referendum on the facts once we know the outcome of the negotiation.
And there's more on that, along with all the week's political news on the new series of Sunday Politics this Sunday morning here on BBC One at 11 o'clock. Now, it's one of the newest rowing clubs in the region, set up by just a handful of members. But already the Lakeland Rowing Club has outgrown its current home and it's now collecting silverware. Well, the club's based at the Derwentwater Marina, but work's underway to clear a new launch site on the other side of the lake. And Megan Patterson is at Derwentwater for us tonight. Megan.
Evening, Jeff. Well, as you can see, we've got slightly ominous skies here at Derwentwater, but you can see some of the young squad at the Lakeside rowing team just coming in here after a spin on the water. They are part of a 70-strong club here. This club opened in 2007. Then it only had 7 members, but since then it's gone from strength to strength. It's winning awards and it's making real progress with seasoned rowers and with beginners too. And as you mentioned, it's got so successful, it's moving house. Here to tell us a bit more is Chris Pratt. Chris, what's behind this upsurge in your membership, do you think?
To a large extent, it's to do with the tie-ups with Keswick School and with Cockermouth School. So the junior section is really thriving now. So much so that they, in competition, they're doing really well. But equally, our senior members are as well, particularly the women's masters crew, which were in the North of England Sprints, won gold this year.
So with that success comes the desire to do better, to do bigger things. So you are going to be moving properties. Why is that necessary?
Well, victims of our own success, really. As you mentioned, the membership has grown so greatly. We've been well looked after here at Derwentwater Marina, but we've just outgrown the site. So we need more access to the lake, to be honest. So our new site, which the National Trust have found us some room across the water on the isthmus, rather. And we hope to be there early next year.
And what will that give you, very briefly? The added extra edge in competitions, why will it make a difference?
It gives us more time on the water, particularly for the juniors. They're up against crews which train 3 times a week and row twice a week. Our juniors currently only have 1 session a week, and even with only that limited time, they're doing well. So I think with more time, we'll get even greater results. But that should go through the whole club.
Chris, thank you very much. There you go, very successful already. Hopefully a move just across the water will make them even more successful. And if you want to have a go, Jeff, you're maybe a little bit late this year because it's getting a bit colder, but come back in spring and there are plenty of people who'll teach you down here.
Sounds good. Megan, thanks very much. Now, what about this guy? A real hero. 73 years ago, John Jeffreys from North Yorkshire made a parachute jump into a Dutch battleground during the Second World War. He was shot and taken prisoner. Well, today, the 95-year-old former paratrooper from Richmond returned to the Netherlands to reenact that jump, this time in aid of charity and in memory of his fallen comrades. Phil Chapman sent us this report from Arnhem.
As the heavy clouds suddenly parted, John was able to make his long-awaited jump to the west of Arnhem, even if the landing wasn't quite as graceful as his trial jump near Peterlee last week.
I'm on top of the world. I've just been on it. No, it was really something to remember, you know. It was all right during the war. You had a job to do. But doing it now, to remember all the boys that are still here, I'm very pleased I did it.
It was a very different scene in 1944 when John suffered heavy blood loss after being shot as he descended into the ill-fated Operation Market Garden. It was an attempt to capture bridges near the German border, but resulted in the parachute division losing nearly 1,500 men and more than 6,500, including John, becoming prisoners of war.
Arnhem, the bridge. They don't forget in Holland, nor Britain, nor any country that sent men to drop from the skies into one of the bloodiest battle hells of the war.
Back then, John was captured as he lay wounded on the ground before an arduous journey to a prisoner of war camp. But today he was given a hero's welcome.
My dad is an amazing man, and I'm immensely proud to be his son.
The jump was fine, but he just didn't lift his legs high enough on the land, so he fell forward. He's absolutely fine, yeah. None the worse for wear.
I'm so proud to see how he's doing and how he's helping everyone to understand what he did all those years ago.
For the last 15 years, John has returned to Arnhem to speak to new generations about his very personal memories of the horrors of war and the friends he lost. And to preserve some of those memories, John's written a book about his extraordinary life. It's called A Spirit of Adventure, and while here preparing for his parachute jump, he read moving extracts from it to students here at this school near Arnhem.
For the cost of war is far too high, if it means that our youth should die. Soldiers still, they stand in line, and they will for all time.
You get to hear it from someone very close, and that's not very often, and yeah, it's kind of nice and sad at the same time.
I think it's inspiring that you can just be a very nice person after all you've been through.
And because he's a very modest person as well, John's always praised the people he jumps with in the same spirit of comradeship he felt on that momentous day back in 1944.
Because I've got some wonderful tackle here and a wonderful instructor, it was beautiful. It was absolutely dead easy. Thrill of a lifetime.
Phil Chapman, BBC Look North, Arnhem.
What an amazing guy.
A remarkable man from a remarkable generation, really.
Absolutely.
Wasn't he?
If I make the 95, I hope I can get out of bed, never mind jump out of a plane.
Absolutely.
Wow. Anyway, some cricketing heroes, hopefully,
Yeah,
over the weekend.
we're starting with cricket. Yes, it takes centre stage tonight because tomorrow Durham's Chesley Street Ground plays host to the only T20 international of the summer between England and the West Indies. 13,000 spectators will watch a repeat of last year's infamous World Cup final. Only this time, there'll be no Ben Stokes.
Watching the England players going through their paces in the nets is a huge boost for Durham, who've endured a long and disappointing season in the second division of the county championship after being relegated by the ECB this time last year. The sellout crowd won't be treated to a performance from Durham and England star Ben Stokes, though, after England decided to rest the man of the moment for the game at the Riverside. Durham chairman Ian Botham has called it a kick in the teeth for the club. Captain Owen Morgan understands the fans' frustration, but there's an important winter ahead.
I can see both sides of it. Guys want to see him play. If there wasn't an injury risk down the line or a huge Ashes tour coming up, potentially he might be able to play. But I mean, it's unfortunate that it has to be a game at his home ground. But we have to stay strong with the decisions and the plans that we have. So potentially down the line that we don't actually regret playing him in a one-off game.
The West Indies have drafted in all their big hitters for this match, rather than relying on the Test squad, including Chris Gale, Marlon Samuels and Carlos Brathwaite, the Windies hero who hit Stokes for 6 4 times in his last over to snatch victory from England in last year's World Cup. So is he disappointed that Stokes will be absent?
Not really. Obviously, something they can't get away from. They even put us to play at his home ground. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that obviously I would always be reminded about, but it's something that I try to put to bed and try to move forward in my career. I probably still can't believe it. Thankfully, we have a World Cup. I have a fantastic story to tell my kids with some video footage to prove that I'm not fibbing or telling a lie.
While there's no Stokes, there's likely to be a sizable Yorkshire contingent in tomorrow's team, including former Durham favourite Liam Plunkett, who's revived his England career since moving to the Tykes. And he's delighted to be playing on the international stage, back where it all began.
Yeah, it's always nice to come back here. A lot of good memories, and you don't get sick of that view from the dressing room. But I've enjoyed the last 5 years with Yorkshire, and obviously managed to get back in the England setup. And I cherish every time I play for England. It's always an honour to step out, and tomorrow I'll do exactly the same.
Liam will be pleased because in the county championship there's been a valuable draw for Yorkshire, who are facing a fight to avoid relegation from Division 1. Despite being forced to follow on against Surrey at the Oval, Sean Marsh and Alex Lees hit centuries for the Tykes, and when bad light stopped play there was relief all round. Yorkshire settled for 10 points from the game, but safety this season looks like going right down to the wire. Now, Newcastle United are targeting their third win in a row when they take on Stoke City at St James's Park tomorrow, with manager Rafa Benitez back at the helm after missing last week with illness. Meanwhile, Borough are looking to extend their unbeaten run, and Sunderland are hoping they can reverse a worrying trend. Nisha Joshi looks ahead to the weekend's action.
Rafa Benitez's team coped well without him last week, but they're glad to have him back in the dugout tomorrow. He's just about fully recovered from recent surgery to treat an infection following a hernia operation 2 years ago.
I'm now Usain Bolt, so I'm really fast now. If you see me last week, oof. No, anyway, before to start, I want to say thank you to everyone here, staff, players, the fans for the messages, the medical department here, there. So that was a special situation, and then everybody was showing sympathy and supporting, so really pleased with that.
Today was Benitez's first media briefing since a disappointing end to the transfer window, but back-to-back wins has helped lift spirits.
You know my idea about the transfer window, but at the same time, I am quite positive in terms of what we have to do. We are where we are. We are doing well. Our commitment is to improve every single player and try to improve the team. If we can do that, we will see where we are for the next window, but at the moment it's just to bring the best from every player.
Sunderland travelled to Hull with the pressure on after 4 league defeats in a row. Whilst looking to turn things around as soon as he can, Simon Grayson maintains he's looking for long-term success at the club.
We're all frustrated, myself, the supporters, the players. The players are working extremely hard to be successful for this club, and hopefully the supporters will see that success over a period of time, not the next few games, not a few weeks, but over a longer period of time, hopefully.
Middlesbrough will be without suspended winger Adama Traore for their home match with QPR tomorrow, but they go into the game with positivity after showing character to draw with Aston Villa this week, despite being a man down for most of the game.
I think Tuesday was a really good marker for them. The feeling afterwards in the change room as well was the fact that they'd gone through that together as a new group and come out the other side.
Meanwhile, there's still uncertainty over former boss Steve Agnew's role at Borough. He's no longer working with the first team and the club haven't clarified his current position. Nisha Joshi, BBC Look North.
Well, in League Two, 19th place Carlisle United really could do with a win against Barnet after 2 straight defeats. And in the National League, Hartlepool have a tough away trip to Leyton Orient, while Gateshead could move into the playoff zone if they beat third place Aldershot at the International Stadium. Finally, congratulations to Seaside Paralympian Jay Jones, who came second in the World Para-Triathlon Championship in Rotterdam. Jeff.
Doing really well.
Really well.
Thank you very much. Right, time for the weather now. Jen, it's starting to get a bit chilly, isn't it?
It is. It's definitely feeling autumnal now. And this weekend, it's a story of sunshine and showers, and that chilly theme will continue. Now, this was the picture taken by one of our weather watchers, Trevor, in the Lake District earlier today. We can see that blue sky breaking through, but showers always on the horizon. And I think that sums up how it's going to be this weekend, actually. Some chilly mornings, sunny spells, yes, but plenty of scattered showers. Now, this is the pressure chart sequence for the weekend. The wind's coming down from the north or northeast for a time, but then high pressure starts to build in, settling everything down by the time we get to Sunday. Back to the here and now, though. We have a few showers continuing this evening. They'll eventually die out across Cumbria, so some clear spells here. But along the northeast coast, those heavy showers will continue for a time during the night. And it will get quite chilly, temperatures dipping down to around 7 to 10 degrees. So a fresh start to Saturday morning, but plenty of bright spells first of all. There will still be a few showers along the northeast coast there. And as we head through the day, those showers will pep up inland as well. As we get to around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, it's a mixture of sunny spells and scattered showers, that classic weather scenario that we seem to have had for the last few days. Temperatures around 12 or 13 degrees in the showers, but where we get the sunshine, we could get up to around 14 or 15 degrees, and the wind not quite as strong as it has been today. Now, through Saturday night and on into Sunday, those showers will die out again as that high pressure is starting to build in earnest. Still 1 or 2 lingering along the northeast coast. Cumbria experiencing some clear spells during the night, and here we could have some patchy mist and fog by Sunday morning. The temperatures again on the chilly side down to around 8 to 10 degrees. So another fresh, crisp start to Sunday morning. Plenty of sunshine first thing, and I think over the weekend, Sunday is looking like the better day of the two. There will still be 1 or 2 showers, still a bit of a breeze blowing along the northeast coast here, but essentially we're looking at a dry day. And in the sunshine, it will feel quite pleasant. Temperatures creeping up to around 15 or 16 degrees. 16 is 61 in Fahrenheit, and the wind's still fairly light compared to what they've been today. Into the start of next week, Monday looks like a fairly dry day, quite cloudy, but not feeling too cool. And then temperatures start to creep up again as we head into Tuesday. But certainly over the weekend, feeling autumnal, and it's a story of sunshine and showers.
OK, Jen, thank you very much. Not too cold. Just about getting away with it for another week.
Not an Indian summer, though, is it?
No. That's it. Have a great weekend, whatever you're doing, and we'll see you back on Monday. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.